Trump and his advisors have yet a new excuse for why Trump kept classified documents.
My father always kept clippings, press clippings. He would have, newspaper articles, pictures, notes from us.
Quite honestly, I'm concerned that they may have planted something.
In 2017, former President Obama, you might have forgotten this, the New York Post remembered. They shipped 30 million pages of sensitive and possibly classified materials to Chicago.
Good afternoon from Los Angeles, California. I'm Dr. Ryan Ava. We begin with the ever-evolving excuses from Donald Trump and his team over why classified documents, including some classified at the highest levels, were even at Mar-a-Lago residence in the first place. Now, as hard as it may be to believe, there is actually a pattern to these excuses. Steve Vladeck, he's a law professor at the University of Texas. He laid out the stages of Trump's denial brilliantly in a tweet. 1, it didn't happen. 2, whatever happened wasn't a big deal. 3, someone else did it. 4, whatever happened isn't illegal. 5, the president can't be liable for whatever happened. 6, well, Obama did it too. 7, who cares if the president did it and it is illegal? And goes on. If that sounds familiar, it is because that tweet is actually from 2018, when Trump was trying to defend himself from the Mueller investigation, and yet that exact same thing was true 2018, and it is still true today. Deny and deflect in any way or shape or form you can. And just last night, we got the latest explanation for the disgraced, twice impeached former president's action from his former and current personal attorney, Ruddy Giuliani and Christina Bobb.
And now they want to make him responsible for having taken classified documents and preserved them. Really, if you look at the Espionage Act, it's not really about taking the documents. It's about destroying them or hiding them or giving them to the enemy.
Right.
It's not about taking them and putting them in a place that's roughly as safe as they were in the first place.
Mar-a-Lago is secure in and of itself. Just getting onto the compound is hard. And then it was a locked door, and getting, back down into the basement, there's security. You can't just walk down there. Only certain members of staff can get there, and then there's only one key. So, yes, it's a very limited number of people that have access down there.
Now, we'll talk about that in a bit, but of course, if Trump's true concern was actually to keep the classified documents safe, documents, by the way, which he initially claimed were probably planned there by the FBI agents, but wouldn't be the best place for them to be safe be at the National Archives? I mean, honestly, at this point, they will say just about anything to further muddy the waters, regardless of the absurdity or how it even may sound. Now, we'll talk about that in a bit, but of course, if Trump's true concern was actually to keep the classified documents safe, documents, by the way, which he initially claimed were probably planned there by the FBI agents, but wouldn't be the best place for them to be safe be at the National Archives? I mean, honestly, at this point, they will say just about anything to further muddy the waters, regardless of the absurdity or how it even may sound. Because so many people out there will simply believe him, and that includes the ridiculous claim that everything was already declassified, because Trump had a standing order that materials taken from the Oval Office to the residence should be considered declassified. CNN is reporting that 18 former top Trump administration officials say they never heard of any such order issued, and they believe the claim to be patently false. Yeah, we do too. That includes 2 of his former chief of staff, by the way. John Kelly telling CNN, quote, "Nothing approaching an order that foolish was ever given," end of quote. And Mick Mulvaney saying he was, quote, "not ever of a general standing order like that," end of quote. Second of all, even if you accept that the standing order thing to be true, It is legally irrelevant based on the 3 federal criminal statutes listed on the search warrant that was unsealed last week. That is because none of these statutes depend on whether the documents contain classified information or they are declassified. Now, it is likely that Trump's legal team already knows this, but how else can you mount a defense for this ridiculousness? It may also explain why yesterday a judge heard arguments over why parts of the search warrant affidavit should be unsealed, allowing us to see at least some of the evidence backing the FBI's actions. Now, Trump's legal team did not make any motion to unseal it. In fact, they only watched from the public sitting area. And we're going to talk about that in just a second too. But here is what Clint Watts, a former consultant for the FBI Counterterrorism Division and a distinguished researcher fellow at the Policy Research Institute and an MSNBC national security analyst, had to say about why it is not a good idea to unseal the affidavit.
So in general, I would say absolutely not, because you want to trust whoever the confidential informants and sources are and what methods you use to gather information. You want to also make sure that it's correct, because in these affidavits, when they're going to do these search warrants, they're trying to gain more evidence to confirm what they believe is a criminal conspiracy. So in any of these affidavits, there's the potential that something could be not quite right, that they would learn and correct based on what they find in the search warrant. That's the whole point of this. It's an investigative process, just like a scientific hypothesis, where you're trying to gain evidence to confirm what you think you know and then bring a charge. I think there is one exception to this. I think we've learned it over the last decade, particularly in the social media era, but definitely during the Trump administration, which is if many falsehoods, a fire hose of falsehoods are going to be levied against the Department of Justice and those agents and investigators and attorneys that have been working on these cases, the best way to quickly thwart those conspiracies is to get the truth out. And I think what they're trying to balance here is how they keep really investigative secrecy around the investigation intact, try and protect sources and methods, while also trying to really protect the conscience of the American public about what really happened and what's really going on. It's a tough balance to keep that privacy and security going and make sure the American public is really informed on what's going on.
To support my work, please click the subscribe, the like button, and the notification bell so you wouldn't miss any of my new videos.